Well, I think as you've seen from high-level officials on the U.S. side throughout the year, we stress that we want to keep the lines of communication with the People's Republic of China open. And so, I've had a number of different high-level visits to Beijing in the last year. Secretary Blinken, Secretary Raimondo, Secretary Yellen, Special Envoy Kerry, and then certainly, welcoming Foreign Minister Wang Yi to Washington the week before last. And so keeping the lines of communication open is very important. And, also focusing on managing competition responsibly and, working, working and focusing on that as we go forward. So certainly working towards a meeting between President Biden and President Xi next week. And, from my perspective as U.S. ambassador for APEC, I think this is, again, one of the really exciting things about
Mm-hmm.
APEC's value add is that it is a place which is convening leaders on an annual basis where we can really have very high level conversations, both multilaterally and bilaterally. And obviously, the discussion with President Xi is probably the most high profile
Yes.
opportunity.
So it's interesting you still use the phrase working towards the Biden and Xi summit. So what needs to happen in order for that summit to actually happen?
So that's a discussion that our whole China team is having with their counterparts right now. I don't really have much to share on that at the moment. My
Mhm.
focus is on how it fits into the overall schedule of events next week. And so our team is working very closely with the White House to make sure we set the agenda for all of that. And so it's really our China team that is focusing on the specific bilat with President Xi. So I don't
That
have a
makes
lot I can
sense.
add at this point.
And how has APEC discussed issues such as, even harder ones like export controls and barriers that US and China pretty much impose on each other?
So our focus in APEC has been on, when it comes to supply chains, has been on supply chain resiliency. How can we make sure that economies have the information that they need in order to set up supply chains that will be resilient in the face of various challenges. Within APEC, we have a supply chain resiliency action plan, which is now, I believe, in its third year, and certainly is a product of some of the things that we learned during the COVID pandemic. And you're absolutely right. I mean, semiconductors is one of those sectors where we've seen, some really significant challenges in recent years when there's been shortages of certain kinds of semiconductors. We experienced that here in the United States in 2021 with the auto sector. But I think what we're also learning is, again, has been talking about a comprehensive approach. Supply chains are a very multifaceted challenge as well. Semiconductors do get a lot of attention, and rightfully so. But also, when President Biden launched his executive order on supply chains, he also focused on EV batteries,
Mhm.
focused on pharmaceutical APIs, focused on um, uh, also, sorry, critical minerals. And
Mhm.
so, there's a number of different sectors that we have to be concerned about, and that means there's a number of different approaches that we also need to take. So, certainly we do talk with our partners in Taiwan and other APEC economies about some of the challenges that they're having. In Taiwan's case, they're one of the largest semiconductor producers in the world, but may not have as much production of some of the other key sectors. And so we really need to keep those communication lines open on how we can work together to address that very significant challenge.
And have you been able to use APEC to discuss export controls?
So within APEC, export controls are not normally on the agenda because they normally are discussed in other settings, around that sort of national security side. But
Mm.
certainly, there are a lot of sideline conversations at APEC meetings about current challenges, and certainly, how some of these issues are being addressed can be discussed on the sidelines anytime these economies get together.